I remember doing some work for a company once, and it was a big property management company. And I was doing some coaching in there, and the scenario came up that one of their property managers was doing a review for a maintenance tech person. And this guy was an older gentleman, right? And he just had a passion for this stuff, right? He liked to tinker with stuff, and he was like Gadget Man, like the cartoon, years ago and so forth. And he was really ideal. Never called in sick. Didn't was forced to take time off because he really work was very meaningful for him and so forth. Very reliable. So his review came up, and he had been in there a year, and his review came up, and the property manager had filled it all out 5 out of 5 stars, and had to submit it to the regional property manager position for approval. And the conversation went something like this. The regional person said, listen, we don't want to give Joe 5 out of 5 stars because then he's going to think, right? So let's give him 3.5 in some places, maybe a 4. So this way he'll work harder to get to stuff, right? And that was his mentality of this. But we're still going to give you the raise that you want. You want him to have 5%, we're still going to get. But on paper, 3.5, 4 stars maybe, right? Well, the property manager shut down, very upset, emotionally hijacked about the situation. And the regional guy didn't get it. Because instead of not recognizing, right, we're talking about recognizing where someone was at, right. Instead of having a conversation of, let's talk about the sustainability of greatness, right? It was, let's make you think you're still not good enough as a motivator. Now I ask you, is that emotionally intelligent?
No.
Absolutely not. No. And that is mostly the mindset of how people manage, right? So when we talk about a mindset adjustment, that's an emotional adjustment, right? Yeah. Because for the regional guy, it went something like this. He didn't want that maintenance tech to feel a certain way. He wanted him to feel like he needed to do more. He wasn't doing enough.
Yeah.
And he can justify that cognitively. But that is not the right feeling to harness in that employee at that time. And then you shut out your property manager. Why not have a conversation about, listen, you are doing extraordinary, and we'd like to talk about the sustainability of greatness. How can you sustain this? And how can you deliver this? And how can we capture this, right? And now model it for other techs that are coming. Isn't that a form of leadership? Isn't that a form of synchronization of excellence? Isn't that a way to engineer excellence in people?
Absolutely. That's a very big mind shift and cultural shift, and could be in an organization to do that.
It could be, but is it a fight worth taking?
Yeah.
Because I say to you, what is at the heart of excellence? What really matters to people at the core, at their DNA, what's important? Here's how I see it, right? Can I tell you?
Yep.
Work is 1/3 of your life. You sleep 1/3, you probably a little
Not so
less.
much, yeah.
Work is 1/3. You sleep 1/3, you work 1/3, and then the rest of the 1/3 you build a family, you raise a family, you vacation, you do whatever you do with that 1/3 of your life. If I cut 1/3 of your body off, you're going to miss that.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Leaders have an ability to influence 1/3 of people's lives. That's how important work is, and particularly for males, it's even more important, I suggest, for you, because it's very connected to our identity and so forth, right?
Yeah.
1/3 of your life. Now, I don't know about you, but I take that responsibility pretty seriously. And I suggest to you that that's the fight to have, is into help adjust the mindset. It's the people behind the results, and that's where really the cultures of excellence, I think, can thrive. And it takes real leadership to do that.